Hello and welcome to Sharp Talk, the show by washed up athletes for washed up athletes looking to be their best self. On today's episode, the brothers and I were joined by Cole Snyder, our cousin, a former athlete and current chiropractor. We dive into his athletic background and his journey after athletics, into his current career and how he serves his patients today. Hopefully, from listening to today's episode, you realize the transfer that athletics can have into life beyond athletics and how Cole serves his patients both from a health and overall well-being perspective. So thanks for tuning in and hopefully you enjoy. Before we get rolling with today's episode, I want to take a second to tell you about Sharp Training. Snyder Health Recovery and Performance Training is an online training platform to help washed up athletes look, feel, and move better. We offer several different group options catered to your needs, interests, and goals, with new programs delivered each month through the Team Builder app. Features include video demonstrations, 24/7 messaging and feedback, and access to the Sharp Edge, a comprehensive guide to upgrade your diet, sleep, and life. Use the code PODCAST in all caps to get 50% off your first month when checking out a program. Iron sharpens iron, so let us help you become your sharpest self. Now let's go. And we're back with another edition of Sharp Talk. This week, Brandon, Jaden, and I are joined by our cousin, a practicing doctor, chiropractor, former athlete, Cole Snyder. Welcome to the show. Thanks for being here.
Cousins. Good to see you guys.
Good to have you.
Yeah. Never a dull moment with our cousin Cole, but it'll be nice to just sit down for an hour and chat it up and reflect on some things and hopefully learn some things. So, Cole, if you want to go ahead and just give a little background about yourself, you can talk about growing up, athletic background, what you're doing for your career. Take it wherever you want.
First cousins to you three, son of Dan, brother of Tim, part of the Snyder clan. A little different flavor of Snyder. I think you'll probably see that in the conversation. We're same but different. So grew up with these three, not far away, rival high schools, went through all of that. And so now I'm, like you said, I'm a chiropractor here in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I've been practicing for 5 years. Former washed up athlete, just like you guys. Played all the sports in high school, much like you guys. Played football at Augustana after high school. Was a long snapper for a year and a half, pretty much a year, which was a ton of fun and great experience. And now I'm in my 30s trying to, stay young and vibrant like you guys. Wake up every day trying to look like Jaden. And
jeez,
that's what we're doing.
Ain't that the truth? Yeah. It's a lofty goal.
It is, dude. Talking about a
Tough
Ken
to teach 6'2".
Yeah. And beards, as you can tell.
Yeah.
Kind of dive into that college journey as a long snapper. I have some experience as like the kicker, punter, different aspect. And it's just a different. I had a different taste of football when I was only kicking and punting, and it was kind of unique to that. So kind of take us to your journey as a long snapper and how that kind of changed your perspective.
Yeah, it's kind of a fun story. I had never long snapped in high school. So I showed up at Augie. I was a walk-on. And you guys know, you all were in fall camps. Like, it doesn't take long to figure out who's got it and who doesn't, and so I knew right away. I mean, I was 195 pounds my freshman year as a defensive end, and it just, a little slow-footed, a little undersized. Gave you all I had, but there wasn't much there. And so, it is what it is, right? So the dream of, being the Rudy at Notre Dame and becoming an All-American, I had to find another way. And so it was end of my, I think, second year, and I loved it. I was doing everything and getting, 6 string reps or whatever it was, but we needed a long snapper. This was back in the day where you didn't recruit and have a scholarship long snapper like they do now. So they're like, we need guys to start long snapping. And I was like, well, it doesn't seem that hard. And so just started figuring it out. My roommate was kind of the kicker punter, kind of backup kicker punter. He was in a kind of similar spot as me. And so we just worked at it together, snapping footballs in the dorm hallway. And just stayed at it, watched a ton of YouTube videos. And you didn't have a long snapper coach too in Division II football. Like it was really just you figure it out and here's some tips and tricks, and just kind of committed to that. And like you said, Jaden, it was, I was kind of to the point where my defensive end reps didn't really matter. The team, I was there. I really wasn't a defensive end. I was more just wandering around. So being able to be a long then I think it was nice because the coaches didn't have to, put any reps for me in on the defensive end side, and it saved, got some other guys some good looks. So I just got to be the long snapper, which was awesome because you just hung out with the kickers and punters and snapped a lot of footballs. And then got to do it for a year, and that was so fun. Just a ton of good memories there, and then the bonds I have with the holder and the kicker, they're just still tight to this day. So it was just kind of finding your niche and going for it. And then you just got to be a part of the team and had a great experience and wouldn't trade it for the world.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of parallels with my own journey. For me, it was getting moved to the defensive line, not being able to keep up with the safeties and linebackers. And so I think that's the really cool part of just football is that it's the ultimate team sport and just being really, really good at your job, because not only like are you depending on yourself and wanting to do well for yourself, but if you mess up, then the guys around you. So like if I'm not in my run fit, my linebackers are messing up for you. If you're not snapping the ball where you need to, then my kicker, my holder are messed up. So I think that's why football is so great. You have to put your pride aside pretty often and just get really good at what your niche is. So that's pretty cool. Going back to high school, you mentioned like you were rivals with West Lyon. Is there any memorable matchups with the West Lyon, or any matchups with against Brandon that you remember?
There's a couple. When I think so, and that's the thing I think it's still true to this day. I mean, Central Line, West Line, I mean, that's as good as it gets, right? And there's just a level of respect there, and there's a level of motivation because dude, West Line dudes are always big and tough, and it's like that was like you need to put the work in because they are, and I think that's where you get some of that iron sharpens iron, and just all of the athletes that have come out of both those schools. But things I remember, and I'm going to throw Coach Dan Snyder under the bus when he listens to this.
Ooh.
This would have been, I think, 2010 Beef Bowl. It would have been my junior year, I think, if I have my math right. And this is when West Lyon was good. I think you guys might have won it that year or came close. It was
I think they did.
Bo Hassel.
I think they did. That was like,
Yeah,
they won it that year.
Cherwee. Yeah, dude. I mean,
Trevor Snyder's.
Yeah.
And all,
hopefully those guys
so good.
Just Greek gods out there, right?
Yeah.
And it was, this was back when Beef Bowl was first game of the season, right? And so it was always hot. And so Coach Dan Snyder, this was the Thursday before, was like, you guys got to start hydrating, right? So he brings in Gatorade to the weight room or whatever we're doing, and he starts putting salt in this Gatorade. And I don't know if old Danny it was like a teaspoon versus a tablespoon conversion, and he dude, and we were choking down this Gatorade. Like it was bad. It was like tastes like pure salt. And I remember there was a volleyball tournament in Sioux Center that some guys went to go support the girls and whatever. And we had so much salt. I mean, we had guys that were just tearing up the bathrooms. Like everybody had diarrhea. This is the night before the beef bowl because we had way too much salt. Everyone spent the whole night miserable. We go out the next day and we just got stomped. I mean, it was not even close. Like I remember the score. We got just completely annihilated. So thanks to Dano on that one. Put that one on him. But then I think
I didn't know salt could do that to a person. That's got to be an insane amount of salt.
Mm-hmm. It was.
Can confirm, Cole says.
I think it was, the metric conversion or whatever Dan was looking at. So bad. And there's guys that'll vouch for that story. Well, and then I think, my senior year, I didn't play the beef bowl because I had torn, I had an MCL sprain or something to start the year. But that was the year that we won it on the last second touchdown. But the one story that sticks out with Brandon is on the basketball court where Brandon excelled and I did not. Brandon, you'll have to help me. I don't know the years, but you were young. I think you were probably your sophomore year.
Sophomore.
Playing at Central Lyon and in a buzzer beater to beat us. And this would have been, I think I was a junior because I was a year above you. Yeah. So I didn't play. I was chilling on the back of the bench. But Brandon hits a buzzer beater and goes through and we're going through the handshake line. And I got to come up with something. So we're like embracing each other. And I think the line was something along, hey, Grandpa and Grandma still love me more. Or something like that. And I
think that's exactly what it was.
Yeah. So I had that's what I remember about it. We didn't overlap too much. Brandon was kind of coming on the scene as I was exiting, but that one sticks out.
That's funny. I think that's exactly what it was.
Yeah. And I think that holds true to this day. I mean, no offense, but
no, I think so too. Yeah.
And then Diane, it is what it is.
That's funny. Into your maybe education side as owner of a chiropractic business now, is that something that you started doing at Augustana? Or is that something you developed along the way? And then maybe your educational journey from there. And then, I mean, if you want to get into how you kind of where you are today, I guess it's kind of a long story, but maybe start with just. I
always wanted to be a chiropractor. It goes back to 5th grade and,
really?
So I told, and Dan the man was my 5th grade teacher and we had to tell him what we wanted to be. And that's what I told him. And it was at the time I hadn't seen a chiropractor. I didn't really know much. I don't know where it came from. So I chalk it up kind of an odd thing. And then I started seeing a chiropractor. I was in high school and I was like, yeah, this is cool. And looked more and more into it. So that's what I was set on. So when I was at Augie, I was doing like a, pre-med.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, started looking around for, guys in Sioux Falls that I could, just shadow and intern and, ended up meeting with, the guy that owned the place that I'm at now. And it just worked out really well. And so was able to work there and, ended up, he needed someone to come back and we worked through it. And so about 10 years later, now I'm the guy running it. So, super cool. And education wise, I was at Augie and then we bumped down to Florida for 3 years, which was awesome and did the schooling there. And it was a lot and it was good. And it was a really fun chapter of life. And now we've been back, like I said, going on 5 years and we're rolling and it's been awesome.
Did you have Raleigh when you were in Florida?
Had both boys. Yeah. So we had
both boys.
We had both boys. So at the tail end of, chiropractic school, we had both a 18-month-old and a 2-month-old living with us in our 1-bedroom apartment for a couple months. So that was a fun chapter of life too. Just you didn't know any better, you just figured it out. And
yeah,
that was good. Shout out to my wife.
Yeah, She's a rock star.
Kind of backing off of that, physical therapy and chiropractic kind of go hand in hand. There's a lot, I would say, similar in our professions. I'm just curious how maybe you've seen chiropractic as a career like evolve through your 5 years. Is it pretty similar to when you started, or what kind of direction do you see chiropractic going?
It's a good question, and I think there's a lot of ways to answer it. The uniqueness of chiropractic has always been the philosophy, and the way that, you can put 100 chiropractors in the room and they'll tell you 100 different takes on what we do and how we do it, which is awesome. And then it's also a challenge because we don't always have great unity in our profession to be able to come together, and that's where you get all the wacky stories of this chiropractor that does this and this and that, and so I think you have that in any profession, but we seem to have probably more of it. But chiropractic continues to, we're still around. So it's one of those things where it's now, I think it's been 125 years or, so we're really, really relatively new in the healthcare space, but the usage continues to go up. The number of chiropractors continues to go up. And I think the product and quality is getting better. So then it ties into, I think one of the challenges is, as a chiropractor, you can do lots of different things, right? I could be essentially operate as a physical therapist with intensive, rehab and sports performance and going for all that. And there's guys that do that and that are great. And there's different niches for everybody. So I think the challenge is owning how do you position yourself? What do you do? What don't you do? And then how do we always pride ourselves on being a piece of the puzzle and saying, okay, what can we provide you? And then I don't need to be the expert in all things. So where else can you find the solution? And then let's just make sure we know all the best places in town and get you to, it's about creating that kind of healthcare team, versus trying to be everything to all people. And so that's where chiropractors and PT that's where they spat. And that's also where they can work really well together. It just, finding that right mix.
I think that's a big piece of just like sports medicine and in general, and like coaching, is having, just not letting pride take over and trying to be a master of all things, more so just owning your niche and just having great relationships and communication skills with other professionals. So like, at a college level with my ATs, it was always knowing like, hey, that early stage of rehab, that's probably not my specialty. But then also on the AT side and that later stages, when it's more return to sport, then maybe I need to take over more. And so I think that's a big deal. And there's a lot of people who are very good at, a wide variety of skills. But I think that, like you said, you hit on it, just serving your niche very well. And that applies to a lot of things. Business and other things as well. Just, even football, like we talked about earlier, just being really, really good at your job and having the humility to give it up to someone else when it's time.
The parallels of football and life, you could probably have a 3-hour conversation on all of that, because I think it's just, once you've been exposed to that, you're right. It's just teamwork and the discipline and understanding, strengths and weaknesses and creating a team around that. So yeah, it's the same the idea here of, dude, I don't have to be the smartest guy in the room and try to solve all your problems. Here's what we can do. Here's what we have to do to find success. And then we'll take it a day at a time and find out either we meet your needs, or we're halfway there, or you might need a additional care, additional opinion. Let's just go get it, and then just work together instead of trying to create so much divisiveness amongst professions and the world in general.
Yeah. So as far as like Envive, like what's your guys' niche? Like, is there a certain population that you guys see most of or maybe align with? And then off of that too, like maybe you specifically, like, do you see a certain type of patient? Or is there a certain niche within chiropractic that you're maybe moving towards?
Yeah, good question. Anybody with the spine is where I start.
So I think that's most people.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Um,
Okay, that's what I thought.
there's, in our profession, there are some places that'll be very, work on a specific niche and do really well. It's hard to get there because I think every practice is a family practice first, and then you can work into some of those specialties. So we're pretty wide open. I think my biggest thing with how we do things here is, uh, we're very intentional about just the service aspect and the trying to be as patient centric as possible. So it's the setup of, I want to be able to, if anybody needs me today, it's Friday. Okay. If anybody in the Sioux Falls or the tri-state area needs to see a chiropractor, I want to make sure I can be that guy. And that really ties into the operations and the availability and never saying no. So I think our uniqueness is, we're never going to turn you away. So being able to always have the capacity to see one more person and make sure that if you're heading to the lakes and you got a headache, I want you to be able to stop in here and see how we can help you before you go. So I don't have a specific niche. The business that I work in now has been around for 20 plus years. And so there's some people that we've been taking care of for a long, long time. And so there's a lot of legacy there. And then it's just every day something different. So I think most chiropractic offices, it's neck pain, headaches, low back pain. That's the bread and butter that we see a lot of. But then that's the other fun thing is there's always stuff walking through the doors that you never know quite what you're going to get because it's such a diverse demographic. So that's what keeps it fun and fresh, I think.
It's pretty strong parallel to coaching as well. Like something I realize as a strength coach is like just seeing other programs, like 90+% of the stuff is the same. And so, there's some coaches who do things really differently, but more so it's how do I make this a good experience for my athlete? How do I get them to buy in? Because there's so many different things that are going to get you results, but if you don't have that buy-in and if they don't enjoy it, then it's not going to be as good of a product or experience, or it's just not going to be the same. And then beyond their college experience, if they have a bad relationship with exercise because of their relationship in the weight room, that it could have a negative effect for the rest of their life. So I think that service thing goes a long ways in coaching, chiropractic, and everything else. So yeah, you don't have to do anything super crazy. It's just more so when they're with you, how do I make this a good experience for them? And that doesn't mean you throw the actual service, what you're doing, away. You still want to get results, but it's more so just the interaction and talking with people. And obviously you have a gift with that. I feel like you're similar to Brandon, where you can have a conversation with anyone and make anyone feel special. So I don't know if you want to speak to that at all. Maybe just what those sessions look like, and as far as communication. And
we always, that's what when we kind of train with our team, there's I think 110 chiropractors within 15 miles of our office. Okay. And so the differentiation, it's not on what you do, it's really how you do it. And so that speaks to everything we talked about. You got to be the best ability is availability. Right. And so it's the old, if somebody calls today and they're hurting and we go, well, yeah, we can't see you until 2 weeks from next Tuesday, we can't help them. And so it's always about making sure we're not our own bottleneck. And that's why we're here 6 days a week. We're open till 6 p.m. We'll be able to get you taken care of. And then I think the other thing that I've always held on to is the human desire to be taken care of never goes away. So it doesn't matter if you're 50, 60, 30 years old. When you wake up and you have a sore stomach or you got the flu, you still want mom, and so being able to tap into that and take care of people, I think is kind of a lost art. And so then again, it's just how do you connect to the human being in front of you and then just be very transparent on how can we help you and how can we really be really, really good at taking care of that human being. and the rest usually will take care of itself.
Yeah, I think your career, along with physical therapy, like we're there to serve people. We're there to make people feel better and get back to their best self. And I think it's really cool. I think I heard, are you working with like the Augustana football team? Do you serve for them? And if so, kind of speak on the importance of like giving back to the community and serving the community in that aspect.
Yeah. Yep. So that's been fun. So this will be, I think, our 6th season doing it. So Coach OJ is still the head coach. He was just an amazing man and amazing mentor to me. And so when I got back, it was just an opportunity to say, hey, I want to take care of the team. And I want my boys along with me. And so every Sunday as they start in the season, I'll head down there for an hour or 2 hours with my boys and just take care of the team. And it's just a way to give back. And I always look at it as that program gave me a lot. And like you heard from my career accolades, not a whole lot of stats. So I think I'm still trying to give back probably to a program that gave me a lot more. But that's just been cool. And then you guys kind of know, you grew up around locker rooms and teams and athletes. There's a level there. Like my boys love it. And the Augie guys are always so good to my boys. And then on game day, they're looking for certain numbers and it just means more. And so I still feel like I'm a part of the team in that aspect, which is big. And so that's just been a fun way to stay involved and give back, and provide a service that I think is obviously highly beneficial to athletes. So that's been a highlight. I mean, my boys are still talking about, players and things like that.
That's awesome. Read this morning a quote, like, if service is underneath you, then leadership's above you. Right. And so I think definitely just talked about service, but like, as someone who's in a position of leadership, like how has that gone for you? What have you learned through that process? What's maybe something you're still working through or struggle with in being a position of leadership at a young age?
I mean, everything rises and falls on leadership. I mean, if you look at the people that get anything done in the world, they're good leaders. So I think for me, it's just been surrounding yourself with good people. And then I've always been coachable. That was probably my best attribute as an athlete. Couldn't run real fast. Wasn't as talented and gifted just overall as an athlete, but just show up, work hard, have the right attitude, and stay coachable. And that, if you can find people that have found success, that's what's allowed me to do what I've been able to do. So I think, yeah, that's, the other side of being a chiropractor is first and foremost, you're a small business owner. And that really dictates the level of success or impact that you can have is, and Jaden, you can speak to this. When you're in chiropractic school or you're in PT school, you're learning all the stuff you need to be a clinician and to pass your boards and be very good technically at what you do. And that's the role of the school. But then on the other end of it is kind of the real world of, well, how do I make a business go? And how do I hire a team? And how do I know what all those intangibles, and so that's where you, I think, get your bumps and bruises and learn a lot. And that's where I'm spending a majority of my time is how do you lead and develop people and find the right people and make the right decisions and the right moves, which is a ton of fun, but you don't really know. You just got to get started and get rolling with it. And so that's where I think the mentorship piece and finding the right networks to, and people to speak India in all areas of your life makes a big difference.
Is there any like specific mentors or sources that you've learned from as you've kind of transitioned or throughout your career?
Yeah. Well, I think it goes back to, I think every coach you've ever had, you can take at least one good nugget from your 7th grade basketball coach up to your college football coach. There's always lessons there. Obviously your parents. And then when I got into the, working with, Dr. Nathan Unders, the name of the guy that founded Invive. And I mean, continues to this day just to be unbelievable to me. And so that was just an opportunity where I've just gone from one coach to the next coach to the next coach, and it keeps working. So I'm just going to keep listening and keep seeking out the people that can speak India, and that's where, they've been there, they've done it. And, you can you can create your own mistakes and learn from them, but it's really nice to be able to tap into somebody else that's already done it and say, hey, you can save yourself a lot of pain and torment by avoiding these things, or this is what I learned when I went through this. And that just continues to prove to be very fruitful for me. So I'm going to keep doing it.
Maybe like practical advice for people listening. I know we have like people all different ends of the spectrum listening, as far as, you know, people just out of their playing career, or maybe, you know, was an athlete 20, 30 years ago. I know like oftentimes when I went to a chiropractor, it was like after something bad happened. But do you think there's maybe benefit to like, you know, like tires on a car, like preventative care is maybe the best thing you can do, so you're not stuck on the side of the road, you know, trying to fix a tire, right? Like from, you know, for our listeners or even for our perspective, like, do you think that chiropractic serves a purpose in like preventative care, like before things happen? Or do you think it's, you know, I don't know, I guess, or is
Yeah.
it when you start to feel a little off, or what's maybe some thoughts there?
Yeah. And I think that's where there's no definitive right way of this is how you have to use chiropractic. Okay. The majority of people that we see come in with a problem. Okay. That's the nature of it. And so people come in with pain. And so our philosophy is really let's help you solve your problem, whatever that is. Okay. And then when we get to the point where hopefully you're feeling great, your problem is solved, you've got one of two options. Okay. You can come back when something hurts. We'll be here. Okay. Second option, and this is where as an athlete, this tends to make sense, but we can get on what we call a wellness schedule, or like you said, preventative care. Okay. And the whole idea is, it's just like anything else, right? It's no different than a diet or a workout plan or anything. I mean, you're any area of health. The idea that if we can maintain and prevent something bad from happening, let's do it, right? And so most people that choose that option are seeing a chiropractor anywhere from once a week to once a month, depending on who they are, what their goals are, what season of life they're in. And then it's just, I think if you're an athlete, if you're somebody that's looking at, you know, what role can chiropractic play for me, you have to just determine if you're getting value from what we're doing. And I can tell you all the value and show you all the studies and give you the testimonies, but it's going to be individual to each human being. If there's value in that you find from doing what we do, then keep doing it. Right. And I think, you know, I always encourage people, because just like anything else, you got bad chiropractor stories. I had a bad experience. I had this or that. And too many times I think you get burned by it, and then you just throw out the whole profession. Chiropractic doesn't work for me, or,
Yeah.
well, I heard this lady had this or that. Experience it for yourself. Chiropractic works. It's been around, like I said, long enough, and there's enough people doing it that if it was a hoax and mumbo jumbo, dude, they wouldn't let us do it. So it's got to find the right individual, and then the relationship matters. You know, the specific chiropractor, the specific business, you got to find the one that meets your needs. And again, it's all about delivered to us, patient-centric care. Put the patient in the middle of where are they going, what do they need, and how can you help them? And then let them make the decision.
To my first ACL, like we had a big squat day in the morning. It was spring ball. And I could just like tell that my hips just like felt different and off. I wasn't seeing a chiropractor at the time. Now I had been doing chiropractic in high school and stuff, but at like Iowa specifically, I just kind of like, I don't know, trusted in like the ATs and kind of just like the constant being able to see them in like that environment, and like just all of the body work that we did, you know, even if in the strength conditioning room, you know what I mean? All the foam rolling and stuff. Like I kind of just, you know, put all my eggs in that basket. But like on that specific day, I just remember feeling off, which was unique to my Iowa career specifically. Honestly, it was probably unique to like my body. Like I'd never really felt that before. Which is one of those things, like, you know, you've been fine before, like you always kind of have those bruises or bumps or something feels off, or you never feel great, especially in spring ball, right? Like you're just kind of, it's 5 weeks of just getting through stuff, right? You're just working hard, put your head down and trying to come out the other side. But like, I just remember that day specifically, how many times like I just didn't feel right. And it's like, then, you know, you get to the end of practice and we're doing a special teams drill, and you put your foot in the ground and your knee caves and find out you tear your ACL. But like at that point, like that would have been a perfect time to like, something didn't feel right. Like that felt like a chiropractic situation. You know what I mean? Like that felt like something that was even beyond the ATs, which again, I think they have certain things that they can maybe do for like from an adjustment perspective, but like nothing near a chiropractic. Obviously it's not their exact specialty. So I don't know, like that kind of really changed my perspective on like the preventative things that you can do and like maybe the compounding effect of if you don't, and I think that chiropractic can definitely serve as a preventative measure, even more so than, just something that you go to after something feels bad, right? Obviously there's the head and the neck and the headaches and that type of a thing, but I'm talking about like lower extremity too. I don't think people often associate like hip alignment and that type of a thing with chiropractic as much as they do, head and neck and that type of a thing. So,
Yeah. And I think there's a couple things there, Brandon. As I look at that, as we look at our profession, it's the awareness and the education piece and knowing that, there's no one on the athletic training staff that had good knowledge of chiropractic or had a chiropractor that was able to speak into to say, hey, here's how we can help. And here, so there's that we're doing a disservice to, that area. But then, yeah, I think 90% of people that we see, nothing really happened. They just don't feel right, or they start feeling pain, or I feel like my hips are off. Something's not right. And it's just the idea that it's like anything else. Things build up over time. Stress builds up over time, and the body's got different ways of handling that. And there's a lot of things that chiropractic can help identify early. And then, yeah, I can tell you, there's certain things that can help risk prevention. And don't hear me say that if you would have got adjusted, you weren't going to tear your ACL that day. But there's a level to go. Could it help? Yeah, I think it could have.
Yeah, I think.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say we're probably in agreement. Like that adjustment, if you would have done it at that time, may have helped, may have not. But it's that adjustment alongside what you do after. I think is really important. I think it's hard to just put like that Band-Aid on that adjustment and be like, oh, you're fixed. Like,
yeah,
there's obviously like a habitual like pattern of movement and strength of muscles around that joint and up and down the chain that is important to see the big picture. And I think it's important to spread that message that, yeah, this might help relieve your symptoms now, but it's what we do after that prevents that from coming back and helping you to continue moving forward without pain. I just think it's really important that we don't look at those adjustments as like a fix all. Cause I mean, Cole, you can speak to this as well. Like, I think it's important to keep
the healing, the adjustment isn't the healing part. It's what happens in between. Right.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I tell people. And that's where most people have kind of an allopathic mindset, or we're used to a medical model of this hurts, take this pill, that's just kind of how things have shifted as the paradigm of health. And you're right. Not what chiropractic is, nor is that what PT is or anything. It's not, oh, here's you're fixed. It's here's what you have to do to get well.
For you, and this might go back to like the delegating, more of like a bigger picture look. For you, how much of it is like when maybe a client comes in for the first time, how much of it is asking questions to relieve the symptoms versus trying to find the source of the issue for maybe like back pain or headaches, if that makes sense?
Yeah, it's a good question, Colin, and there's a lot of ways to answer it, but I think with a lot of people, like I said, there's not one specific. It's easy when you have a specific injury or this happened and now I have this pain. Okay, it's easy to kind of pinpoint. Most people that we see don't fall into that category, and so it's getting enough information to go, what things are contributing to this, and what are we doing that's causing the body to respond this way? How can we help alleviate some of that? And then how can we give you things to prevent that from reoccurring? Because everything that got us here is going to keep us here. So, and the question is different. And then I always tie it back to, what are the patient's goals? Because some people, dude, I want to get adjusted because I feel better for a little while. And that's what I want. And so I got to take myself out of the equation to go, I would love you to start exercising regularly, and I'd love you to lose 50 pounds, and I'd love you to eat these foods and have this mindset. But at the end of the day, I got to make sure I'm okay with, let me help you solve your problem. And then would you like my opinion on some of these other things? I think that's kind of the uniqueness of, I don't have to force myself on to people with what they don't want, because that deters people. And that's probably where you've heard, once you see a chiropractor, you always got to keep coming back, or they wanted me to do all these things. And I think we just got to be real and go, there's benefit to that. But if that's not what you're looking for, I can't try to feed you that and serve you in the best way that you want.
Yeah. Maybe getting into your own health and fitness journey a little bit. For you, like post college, I don't know what you were at your highest weight in college and what you're weighing now. I just remember you, like, maybe I saw you a couple months after you were done playing and you were already like looking like a different person. I know for me, when I was done playing, I was like, I'm going to be like Cole. I'm going to drop weight as fast as possible. So maybe speak to that, like, weight loss journey and what that was like for you as a post college athlete. And like, was that an easy process for you to lose that weight?
I think our stories are similar there. Colin, I was a hard gainer. Like I told you, I was 190, 195 pounds coming into Ogden. And I mean, the other guys were 250, 260, I wasn't close. And so that was the toughest thing for me, was just trying to put weight on. And as I look back, I mean, I was never jacked and chiseled and I put a lot of weight on that wasn't good weight, but I had to do it. So my highest, I was up to 240 was the highest I got. And that was the last week of my last year. Like that was the pinnacle, was 240 pounds. And within a month of being done, I was under 200 pounds. I dropped 40 pounds in a month, and it's going to sound like crazy, but I just stopped, and I couldn't do anything. I stopped eating. I literally just stopped eating. I didn't want to eat. And I was just so over the top. I dropped just a ton of weight. And if I look back, I mean, I wish knowing what I know now, I didn't do anything crazy. I wasn't like crash dieting. I just simply didn't eat all the food that I didn't want to eat. I could have done so much better about retaining strength and some of those things. So I went from 195 to 240, and I dipped down to like 175 pounds, which was like 7th grade me. And that, honestly, that was like 2 years ago. And I was like, dude, I don't like the way I look. I feel like I'm a child. And so then I got, and throughout that time, I mean, I've always been training some capacity, always lifting weights, always, I never had a period of time where I stopped. But I just refocused on, okay, let's get diet dialed in and let's get a training program. Let's work through it. And so now I'm up to about 190, 195 pounds. And I like to stay in there. And then I'm just measuring body weight and, making sure I feel good and that I can, play with my kids and do what I want to do for lifestyle. And then just make sure I'm healthy when it comes to weight. But yeah, that was just a journey in the wild, ups and downs.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's just a part of college athletics. When you're burning so many calories with so much going on, sometimes you have to have pretty drastic diets to gain or lose weight with something like wrestling, or even like Brandon with how active he was at Iowa. I know his diet was insane just to maintain where he was at. And then when you're done with college and you don't have that guidance or resources, I feel like there's not a lot of guys who just maintain it. It's often extremes where you lose a ton or even gain a ton. So it's hard. It's hard navigating that post-athletic career. And then sometimes it takes some time to figure that out. And same as chiropractic, sometimes you just need to outsource that and find help with that, because going from all that help to no help and not knowing what to do can be a tough place. What are you doing now for like fitness, nutrition, anything crazy or just basic stuff?
Consistency, you know, that's the biggest thing. It's just, and I think that's probably my life too. I'm consistent, and it always has to tie back to what are your goals? What are your non-negotiables, right? Here's what I do. Here's what I don't do, and then when you have those, right or wrong, I'm not perfect, but I just know I'm going to work out a minimum of 3 times a week. And usually it's 5. And, and then diet wise, here's what I'm going to eat. Here's what I'm not going to eat. And putting food in the right perspective to go, food is fuel. It's not for fun. And then just, here's where you can get very, very, very macro with it, but here's where I spend my time. Here's what I do. Here's what I don't do. And just kind of get my routine and my consistency dialed in. And then if I feel good about it, you don't struggle. I think I go back to, a quote that I read a long time ago, but the difference between letting your feelings dictate your actions versus my actions dictating my feelings. Right. Because in my current life, the time I have to work out is 5:30 in the morning. That's the time I have. And if I act based on my feelings, I don't ever want to work out at 5:30 in the morning. Like I remember being an athlete in those summer workouts and going, I can't wait to never have to do this again. Right. That was just what I tell myself. So if I base it off my feelings, I'm not going to do it. But just like you guys know, I've never left a workout and not felt better afterwards. So I know that when I hit the gym at 5:30 this morning, as much as I don't want to be there or as much as it sucks, I'm going to be so much better the rest of the day. I'm going to be a better human being. I've got better energy and I'm going to be the best version of myself. And so I'm going to let my actions dictate my feelings because I also know I've experienced the inverse of it. When I sleep in and I don't work out, dude, I'm lethargic. I'm not clear. I'm just a bit of a baby, so that's always been big for me. And I've seen enough benefit that I'm going to keep doing it.
Yeah, I think we find time for what we prioritize and what we value. And I think it's once you find that routine, that consistent routine, you're not even thinking about, should I do it or should I not? Like you just get up, you do it. It's part of your routine. You've done the thinking. And once you put that, either take that step out of the door or get in the car or go to the weight room, whatever it is. Once you take that first step, then you're going to do it. So I think it's just finding that routine and being consistent. As far as goals for your training, I know being an athlete, you're probably training for performance in college. How has that changed as more of a maybe holistic or healthy training perspective? And I think you've dealt with injuries in your past, and kind of talk about how that's maybe changed your training perspective.
I think, it shifts now when you get over the hill and hit 30, like I did. The focus now is just longevity, and it's just, I want to wake up and I don't want my back to hurt. I don't want my knees to hurt. And, I've got young kids, so I want to make sure that I can, if we're playing whatever the game is, I want to make sure that I can be out there and participating. And, and I want to look good. I want my kids to have a dad that has muscles, and I want that to, matter to them and to see health in that perspective. And that's what's cool. Like, my wife works out pretty much every day, and she takes the kids to the gym, and they see that, and we talk about, here's the food that we're eating and why we're eating it, and why we don't eat this stuff and what sugar does to you. So that's the biggest thing. I think it's probably, I'm driven most by my family and my kids and being able to provide for them. And training is a way that helps me get there, so I'm not chasing numbers and trying to up my bench press. Those days are over. It's for me, it's just I think probably staying healthy and the mental clarity that I get just from being able to get to a workout and and beat yourself up a bit. That's just, I've always been better coming off of that.
What about like maybe goals you have for yourself, not health related, maybe business wise? Like, what's something that you're maybe aiming for, if anything, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, maybe you're, you know, love what you're doing, you just want to slowly build, or maybe there's something you're building towards, or I mean, do you have any aspirations? I know sometimes
Yeah.
speaking some of those things into existence, and just out of my own curiosity as family. So
Yeah. And I mean, this is going to come back when I talk about mentors and coaches. You know, a lot of the stuff, the routine and stuff that I do are based off of what I've learned from other guys. Right. So yeah, I write down goals every single day going, and they're not, it's the difference between to do goals. You know, I want to hit X amount of, weight. I want to hit X amount of money. I want to, you know, it's not so much that versus it's to do goals, but also to be goals. You know, like what's the ultimate vision for my life? How do I want to approach every day? And when you get clarity there, then it's easy to say, hey, this is, again, talking about the non-negotiables. This is what I do and this is what I don't. Right. So if I find myself doing something that isn't pushing me towards the vision I have for my life, my family, what I want to be and what I want to provide, it's easy for me to say yes and no. So yeah, I've got goals, and I've got goals as it relates to the business. I've got goals as it relates to, you know, personally what I want to be and you know, what I want to do with my kids, kind of dad I want to be. So I think, you know, you got to have something. It doesn't have to be perfect, but then I can work towards it. And if I'm writing it down every day, I get a better chance of achieving it.
Yeah, I think that's goes back to just the beauty of sports and how that can transfer to life. Competing all that time growing up and chasing goals, it kind of just often carries over into business and life. And so just having something to chase, whether that's like in business, life, fitness, I feel like that's just easier as former athletes. And I feel like a lot of people can get lost when they don't have that's something to chase. So that's really cool for you. And like you said, it doesn't have to be something super specific. It can just be general goals and a general why of just having a better life and providing for the people around you. So that's super powerful. Brandon, Jaden, any other questions? Sick. Well,
all good.
Appreciate your time, Cole. We've done this with a few of our guests, just something to leave it off with. So you've hit on a few of like your mentors and important people in your life. So if there's someone right now you want to shout out who maybe you haven't said thank you to enough in person, who's had an impact on you, or maybe it's a group of people, if you want to finish it off with that, go for it.
Why don't we shout out the Snyder family in all of its entirety. So I think going back to, we had a little family reunion a month ago. And I think as you just get older and you see more and more, it's like, you don't realize how good we had it with, you know, just having 7 brothers and sisters in a family nucleus that stayed intact. So shout out to all the Snyders descendants in all the different areas of life, because they're still just all good people. You know, you just look at the uniqueness and yeah, we all got different ways of doing things, but there's just a commonality. So shout out to Ken and Diane for putting all that together and wading through all the things life throws at you. But just the Snyders, it's a unique breed, and it's just I think a thoroughbred of good people and good families doing good things. So shout out to them.
Yeah. Shout out to the Snyders. Well said. Well, Cole, thank you for your time. This has been a great conversation. I've learned a lot, and hopefully quite a bit for our listeners to take away from this, whether it's chiropractic related or fitness related or wellness related. Just a good conversation. And as I said earlier, never a dull conversation with you. So appreciate your time and hopping on with us.
Always appreciate you guys. Good to see you.
Yep. All right. Until next time. Thanks for listening to the show. If you enjoyed today's episode, leave a rating, review, or tell a friend to check us out. Be sure to follow us at SHRP_training for more content to help you be your best self. Go be great today.